What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to the MLB DFS Lineup Card show. My name's Terry McBride. I never say that on these shows, on these intros. It's been a long, short day for me. Just diving into this slate. I'm not actually playing this slate, just full disclosure. Might throw like 1-3 lineups in, something like that. But I'm going up to the Yankees game tonight. Meeting my cousin, who I think I've mentioned has been in town since like late last week and had not managed to not see him yet. So I think they're leaving day after tomorrow. We were originally going to go to tomorrow's game during the afternoon, a game that I actually have tickets for my normal seats. But then he got tickets for tonight, so I'm going up to meet them tonight. So we're going to try and knock this one out. It's only 6 games. Going to try and knock it out between now and like 5 o'clock so I can get out of here, meet them for some beers before the game, and enjoy the night. It's been a long 24 hours for me, but that's okay. Nothing like DFS-wise or anything, but yeah, it's just been a weird one. But gonna get into this just kind of right off the top. Looks like we've got everybody joining the chat. Trey's there, Stephen B's there, Larry's there. What's going on, gang? Good to see everybody. Gonna dive on into this one. It's an interesting little 6-gamer. I'll give it that. There's like there's kind of pitching options all over the place for fairly cheap prices. Some really good pitchers at really cheap prices. A couple good spots for bats that look a little bit sneaky. So kind of like what I'm seeing on this slate. It's one I would be interested in playing a full slate of, and if I wasn't going to the game and needing to cut out of here. But yeah, I think it should be a fun one to get into. Phil joined the chat. What's up, Phil? Stephen Leibowitz. Happy Monday. Right back at you, pal. Is that a thing people say these days? Is it because nobody has to go to the office anymore on Mondays and it's okay to be happy about a Monday? Didn't used to be happy Mondays. Ask Garfield. Let's dive in. Gun. What's going on, Gun? Gun's in the chat. I'm sure Gun has all his stuff going. Make sure you're checking out his site, Run DFS. He's got some great stuff over there. Don't know if he's still running his promo, but if he is, you should buy it. Gun's a good buddy of mine, good buddy of the show. Has been helping me out a lot. Obi-Wan's in the chat. Jake's in the chat. What's going on, guys? Kind of a casual approach to this one, I'm not going to lie. Took a couple quick hits off the joint before getting on the air, or between getting on the air, taking the dog for a walk, and then being down here. So we're on like, about an hour into a little bit of an afternoon buzz to kind of help things along here. But let's dive in. We've got an interesting pitching matchup in the first one here. Orioles and the Yanks. Domingo Germán obviously going to go out and throw perfect game number 2. Since he did it the last time, he can't let us down now. So perfect game coming from Domingo Germán for only 7,200, 8,100. We kid, of course, but I think there's definite upside for Domingo Germán in this spot. He projects fairly well on my board, 29.9 in the FanDuel scoring, outpacing Tyler Wells on the other side, who I actually kind of also like in this spot. I think there's good upside for both of these pitchers in this matchup. It's a really warm, like humid day here in the New York area. It'll be homer friendly, let's put it that way. Hitter type weather, hitter's park. But both of these pitchers have good enough stuff, and it's been kind of working for both of them. Domingo Germán, like we talked about before that perfect game his last time out, irrelevant to the idea that he gave up nothing in the game, he's just a really good strike thrower this year. 13.8% swinging strikes, 30.1% on the CSW. So he's been just pounding the zone with strikes. He's been inducing swinging strikes. It amounts to a 23.5% strikeout rate, so like a little bit above league average. But I think he's just better than these prices. Obviously proved that the last time out, but has been inconsistent, has obviously given up a ton of power through the season. 4.52% home run rate, 40.2% hard hits, 9.4% barrels. In a realistic sense, are 6 good innings of 2-3 run ball with a home run allowed and a solid 6-7 strikeouts on the table for Domingo Germán tonight? Absolutely. I think he's that kind of a pitcher. I don't expect him to pitch a clean game. I don't expect him to obviously pitch a perfect game, but I do think there's some upside for him, especially at these prices. Like 72.81 is just really, really low. There's a lot of cheap pitching today. On the other side, Tyler Wells, especially on DK for 77. 95 is probably appropriate-ish for him in this matchup. I worry a little bit with him about the power as well. 11.6% barrels, 5.31% home runs in 92 and 2/3 over 15 starts. That's quite a bit of premium contact, quite a few home runs allowed, going up against a Yankees lineup that does still have Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, Josh Donaldson, Gleyber Torres to some degree. There are some home run threats for sure. But what I like about Wells, in addition to the 7,700 price on DK, is the 26.5% strikeout rate, 5.6% walks, 3.21 ERA is great, but a 4.14 xFIP is probably the honest number. He's got a great whip at 0.88. It was one of the lower marks in the league the last time I looked for starting pitching among qualified starters. So just been pitching really, really well. Just makes a few mistakes, gives up a little bit of long ball upside. So I think it's a both-sided scenario on both sides. So I'm looking at all four corners of this one because I want to get to some Yankees bats, particularly in the hitting conditions, with some of the numbers that I'm seeing on like Stanton and Rizzo in the middle of the lineup that can't be ignored in terms of the home run upside here. Stanton pushing is actually the top ranked hitter in the home run model today. Gained a little ground from I had him projected fourth in the lineup earlier. In the confirmed version, he's hitting third, so he actually gains a little ground over that. His timing's been off since he came back to the lineup. 195, 259, 398 overall, but 7 homers, 203 ISO. Still, when he makes contact, a 15.1% barrel rate, 51.6% hard hits. Still, Giancarlo Stanton just needs to find it. Can find it in really quick turnaround, hit 2 home runs in a game type bunches. So I'm going to Stanton. He'll be in my lineups. Definitely some Anthony Rizzo, or he would be in my lineups if, let's say, if I was building a bunch of them. Anthony Rizzo in the middle of the lineup. Similar things apply. Rizzo's a terrific hitter in general, but he's slumped down to 267 after that weird injury that he took. Still hitting a little bit of power, 11 home runs, but most of those came before the injury too. So he's kind of taken a bit of a dive, but the price is way down. 3,800, 2,900. This is just a premium left-handed power bat when he's healthy in Yankee Stadium. I think there's plenty of upside for Anthony Rizzo. In theory, 1 through 6 looks pretty good. In theory. Yeah, a lot of theory going on. So, and that applies to, everything that I was saying there about Rizzo kind of applies to DJ, kind of applies to Glaber. They've both been up and down this season. Glaber's been better than DJ. DJ started out the year looking like, hey, finally, DJ LeMahieu is back in action. And then he took a weird turn where he was just hitting the ball really hard, not seeing any kind of results, striking out double the pace that he was last year, which is still true, and just not turning on the ball, not driving it for enough power, not having anything drop in. Only a 5.8% barrel rate with 45.5% hard hits still. So he's still hitting the ball hard, but he's just not doing much. Top of the lineup for DJ today, 289 on base percentage. The old version of DJ LeMahieu I would love in this spot. It's just not that guy anymore. He got that contract from the Yankees and then kind of went away, like a lot of people tend to do. But Glaber, 49 is fairly cheap for Glaber's talents at second base. 2,800 is definitely cheap. He's got 12 homers on the season, still a 106 WRC+. Another guy who's up and down, but particularly in Yankee Stadium, there's upside for Glaber. Talked about the middle of the lineup, down to Josh Donaldson, who just swings for power, tries to hit 11 home runs in 1 plate appearance. When he makes contact, the ball travels. 8 home runs, 89 plate appearances so far. That's very, very good. 23.2% barrel rate, 51.8% hard hits, 30% strikeouts. It's Josh Donaldson at this point in his career. You just kind of can book the shot at home runs for 3,100, 2,700. I don't like IKF. Some people do. 2,100, 2,300. Multi-position on FanDuel is nice between shortstop and outfield, but I don't know how many times I'm putting him at shortstop from the bottom of the lineup ahead of Anthony Volpe at shortstop at the bottom. He's kind of come on. Somebody linked in the Discord. There was a little piece about Volpe having a chicken parm dinner. Yeah, Trey's mentioning it in the chat right now. Volpe a chicken parm dinner at his parents' house, and they were talking about his stance, and he maybe corrected some things. He's been coming on. I'll give him that. We were talking about the other day about looking for some hit tool from the kid rather than just the incidental power from time to time. Hit tool helps him get on base, helps to exploit the speed upside. So that's what we're looking for. He's been providing a little bit. He's up to 221, 296, 386. I'd love to see that on base trend up to like even just the 320s, let alone higher than that. He's a different asset if he's getting on base. So you can definitely go to Volpe for cheap prices. Higgy, same story in the bottom of the lineup. The Yankees catcher puts bat on ball really, really well when he connects. That's what I always talk about with Higgy. Only 3 home runs on the season in 136 plate appearances. It hasn't really translated to anything, but there is premium contact with Higgy. Close his stance a little bit more was the change. Yeah, hey, whatever works, man. That's and little things like that make a big difference, and we see that all the time in the majors. Guys just get a little bit away from what they typically do, and it has a big, big impact. So hopefully, it's a long-term positive change. Orioles on the other side. I like this version of the lineup with Gunnar in the leadoff spot, Cedric Mullins dropping down to 6th, where we can maybe get a little bit of power out of Cedric Mullins rather than like trying to get on base. Gunner's got great leadoff skills. He's got a good on-base percentage, excellent walk rate. Strikes out a little bit more than you'd like, but most of that is like hunting for walks, being a little bit too picky type strikeouts. 11 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 21% better than average creating runs. All three of the top three hitters in this lineup, 21% better than average creating runs. All that's realistic. They've all got power. Adley Rutschman going to be in the home run derby this year. Should be interesting. Anthony Santander with his 14 homers on the season, 212 ISO. All those guys are very playable. Ryan O'Hearn, his 6 home runs are nice. The 131 WRC plus is not overly realistic, but the 219 ISO is somewhat believable. I think the hit tool is a little bit ahead of where he typically will fall over time. But right now he's playing really well, and he's hitting cleanup on a regular basis. Hits from the left side of the plate in Yankee Stadium against a guy who gives up premium contact. There are a lot of reasons to like the spot for Ryan O'Hearn. First base and outfield for only 35, 2,600 on FanDuel at first base only. I really like that spot. It's not a hitter that I would necessarily go out of my way for on a lot of days, but in this spot against this pitcher in Yankee Stadium with those guys ahead of him, that's interesting. Same thing applies for Cedric Mullins. He's got a lot of pop in his bat as well. 8 home runs on the season in 257 plate appearances. Has gone 30-30 in the past. 4,900, 3,400 in the outfield. That's a great price for him. Ramon Urias is a good utility play. First base, third base on DK, third base, second base on FanDuel, both cheap prices. Guy who can hit home runs, guy who can get a little power into the ball. So I like Ramon Urias. Aaron Hicks, Adam Frazier, Jorge Mateo. You guys know what I think of Aaron Hicks, but he's getting it done. Obviously, the revenge narrative, as people like to chase, in play for Aaron Hicks for sure. But certainly going to hear a round of boos, I'm sure, going to the plate in Yankee Stadium. And we obviously don't believe in revenge narrative or any of that. He's not going to be trying to hit a home run any more than he's trying to hit a home run under normal circumstances. And arguably trying to hit a home run is the worst thing that you can do when trying to hit a home run. So don't really like the spot for Hicks, but he's definitely in play at the prices. Adam Frazier, more productive guy over time than Aaron Hicks right now. So I prefer Adam Frazier if you're just looking for a cheap bat down there. Obviously different positioning. And then Mateo, 3,100, 2,700. If he gets on, he's going. He just doesn't get on base at all. He doesn't hit for average anymore. He was the best player in fantasy baseball, or one of, in like the month of the end of March and all of April. And then he was like, that's it. I'm good for the season. Bring up those kids and I'll lose my job. He at least plays good defense. He's got that going for him. But yeah, Mateo limited is just bottom of the lineup. So that was about 12 minutes on the first game on a 6-game slate on a day where I said I needed to get out of here by 5. I'm so good at making pace. Second game on deck. See, all these games are interesting. That's what's killing me. I kind of wish I was playing this slate, which I can't talk about because that'll lead me to sticking around here too long and not getting out of the house and missing my cousin and not getting to the game and et cetera, et cetera. So not going to play the slate. Not. But this is a really interesting spot. Gavin Williams against these Braves. I favor the Braves side of this one. My projections favor the Braves side of this one. I think I would deploy some shares of Gavin Williams at 6,300 though on the DK slate. There's a lot of cheap pitching, but I do think Gavin Williams is a very, very talented pitcher, and there are not a lot of strikeouts in the Braves lineup, but there's a few gettable guys. So it's a really dicey spot, but at that price for this pitcher, I think you could grab a few shares. 84 even on the FanDuel slate. I don't know that I'd be gambling on it. I just really love this pitcher's talent at that price. Super talented kid. Premium plus fastball. Sits high 90s. Carries up into the hundreds. Super dominant breaking stuff. I believe it's a slider. Forget if it's a slider or a sweeper or traditional slider, whatever we're calling it. But just a really high-end kid that they really, really like, and a potential future ace on the mound, better than Logan Allen or Tanner Bybee probably. So I really like the pitcher. I just hate the spot. Obviously, the Braves are a ridiculous team. They're just dominant. You can see even against this kid, 3 guys in the top of the lineup with above the magic number in the home run model. Another 3 guys just right at it. 7 guys in the 9-man lineup have more than 14 home runs this year. It's just absurd. This was the best team in baseball in the month of June. They were just outrageous. They had 61 home runs in June. They haven't slowed down at all now that the calendar flipped. Acuna's up to 21 homers and 39 stolen bases. Like 2040 used to be just like, holy shit, for this season. That's really, really good. I have no idea what the ceiling is right now for Acuna if he stays in the lineup and stays healthy and plays every day. No legitimate idea what the ceiling is. Albies is a star. Riley's a star. Olson's a star. Murphy, Ozuna, Rosario are both super, super playable guys, especially where they're priced. Like both of these guys on a different team where they didn't just have to allow you the ability to click some of these guys together by pricing these guys here. Both of these guys have earned bigger price tags this season. 16 home runs for Ozuna, 14 for Eddie Rosario, both well above average for run creation. ISO's in the mid 230s. Both of these guys are stars on any other team. Arcia, my favorite utility man in the league on FanDuel, solid rock solid all-star shortstop on the DK slate, which is his correct positioning, but still continue to love 2,800 and 3 positions for the all-star at the bottom of the lineup. And Harris has just been coming on like crazy over the last couple of weeks. He's up to 263, 313, 421, 96 WRC plus, 10 steals, 7 homers. Michael Harris is going to end up looking like Michael Harris, or like what we saw last year by the end of the season. I think he's totally fine here. Swanson can eat it, Arcia, all day. Yeah, Trey. I mean, Dansby's having a down year in Chicago for sure, and Arcia's having a great year. So that's totally accurate, especially when you compare the money that they're making. Forget it. It's a easy win. Larry C, they have Fried and Wright coming back in July too. Scary. Yeah, they need some help in that rotation. I don't know if that's enough. Like, I would want to see them if I was a Braves fan and, like, say the Mets continued to fall off and they were like, all right, Verlander, Scherzer on the market. You definitely want to see them chase one of those guys. There's a lot of like mid-range arms that'll probably hit the market, so I'd like to see them upgrade that pitching staff. But they've got a couple bullets in the chamber with those two coming back and a couple still prospect arms to work with. So it'll be interesting to see what they finish doing. But I expect them to move out of the Braves for sure. Obviously, they don't need to upgrade that lineup or change it. They just need to hope it stays healthy. On the Guardians side, definite upside for Bryce Elder. 81 is probably a little bit low on the DK slate. We're looking for clean innings and, and a win and a quality start from Bryce Elder here. We're not necessarily chasing strikeouts. 4 or 5 strikeouts would be a pretty good outing, given that he's a 20.5% strikeout pitcher. And the one thing the Guardians do well is avoid strikeouts. 18.7% strikeout rate for the confirmed lineup here. That's being pulled down a little bit by Bo Naylor's 37.5 in a 40 plate appearance sample at the bottom of the lineup. So it's actually a little bit better than that. If we average everybody other than Bo Naylor, we're talking about 16.4%. So obviously this lineup doesn't strike out, but they also don't hit home runs. They don't really get on base or create runs or do anything outside of whatever Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor give you. So there's a couple guys chasing league average now in terms of WRC plus, but they're not there yet. It hasn't been a good lineup all year, and Bryce Elder's been an effective pitcher. He's not a big strikeout pitcher by any means, but a 2.44 ERA, a 3.87 xFIP, and is very good at keeping the ball in the yard. 2.07% home runs against the team that doesn't hit him anyway, 5.9% barrels, 6.9 degree average launch angle, and has done that over time. Last year was 1.76% home runs in 54 innings and 9 starts, 5.8% barrel rate, 8.8 degree launch angle. So I like the upside for Elder. I think this is just basically who he is. Can pitch clean innings, keep the ball in the yard, get through 6 or 7, get me that win, get me that quality start. Especially if we think that the Braves are going to pound Gavin Williams and then the Guardians bullpen. I think it definitely makes some sense to go into some Bryce Elder shares. Aaron says, don't be trying to give us eased up Max and Verlander. We want young talent. Look, if you're making a run, I can't imagine a better pair of pitchers, Jason, than Scherzer and Verlander. But I would be looking in Max's direction primarily there. But either one of them, I imagine you probably get Verlander a little bit cheaper than Max. But either one of them to bolt on to that Braves team for a playoff run, and you're not worried about anything in the future, like that's an ideal kind of a pitcher to add. You'd have to get the Mets to be willing to trade in division, which I don't know that they'd want to do. Just with Cohen running that team, like I just feel like he wouldn't want to do that and help the Braves win. So I would expect if they're going to trade him, that's probably out of division, if not out of into the American League. But we'll see what happens. I also don't think the Mets are ready to punt yet. They just made a trade to acquire a reliever from Seattle. They took on Chris Flexen's contract to be able to acquire that reliever. So we'll see what the Mets do, but I don't think they're punting just yet. It's only July 3rd. Unlike those of us who were given such a good offer in fantasy baseball that we had to punt our team before we wanted to, just to take that offer. Luis Robert has been like the best player in fantasy baseball since I acquired him. Can't stop sending my buddy Lou text messages about it. Power, how's it going, Terry? Yeah, the Braves have 6 All-Stars. Yeah, they're just bonkers. Like I said, 7 guys in that lineup with more than 14 home runs already. It's just outrageous. They're so good. So with the idea that I expect Elder to provide some upside on the mound, and he's not a runaway train for projection or anything. He just projects for like clean innings and a handful of strikeouts here. I don't really want to go to the Guardians. On a small slate, I think you could take a little bit, like you could take a minor position there. If they're super low owned, maybe you take a few more shots at the top end of the lineup, but they've just been bad. Stephen Kwan's been underperforming this year. If he's not getting on base, not stealing bases, not hitting for average, you don't have that much use for him. He's a correlated scoring type play. If he's not going to do that, he's certainly not hitting a bunch of home runs. Ahmed Rosario, I was expecting like a chase for 2020 at least, and we're at 1-8, which we've been stuck at for I think a couple hundred plate appearances now. Jose Ramirez was trending downward, but kind of rescued his season so far. 132 WRC plus is great. 219 ISO, arguably a little bit low. 13 home runs, arguably a little bit low for 354 plate appearances. But I think he's righted the ship, and the go forward probably looks good. The predictive stuff looks good. Josh Naylor has been their second best player. Definitely corrected his season. He's sitting 301, 340, 475, a 119 WRC plus, 10 homers to be the only other positive run creator on this team. So behind them, Andres Jimenez, kind of the same thing as Rosario. He's been a little bit more productive with 6 homers, 10 stolen bases, but I was expecting him to chase 2022. I really liked those two as a double play combination that had a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. They were both premium prospects coming up. Got traded to the Guardians, who have kind of underperformed this year dramatically. That's been a big part of their problems too. Those two and Josh Bell underperforming. Like, you could take or leave Stephen Kwan. Stephen Kwan's entirely replaceable if he was the one guy that was underperforming. So it's really Rosario, Josh Bell, and Jimenez that have just crushed this team this year. Bell barely hanging on to relevance. 2,900, 2,700, hitting 228, 319, 377, a 149 ISO, 8 home runs, 5% worse than average creating runs. Brennan, Straw, Naylor, you bolt them on if you're going over the top with Guardians, but you certainly don't go out of your way for any of those guys. Naylor's got a little bit of power. Prospect catcher, fairly high-end prospect catcher. He's Josh's brother. Hits for, it is like in projections, if Josh is going for like 25, he's probably in like the 15, 18 kind of range. But hasn't done much with 40 plate appearances. 1 home run, a .083 ISO, 41 WRC plus. So enthusiasm for the Braves for sure. Enthusiasm for Bryce Elder. No real interest in the Guardian stacks, but on a small slate in 150 lineups, I would have a few. And then Gavin Williams, particularly on DK, I would definitely chase at least a few shares as an SP2 on this kind of a slate. Limited expectations, obviously. We're talking about a thin path to success, but I think it's a play worth making a few times in 150 lineups. If you're building 5 lineups, you certainly don't need that play. It's a full portfolio kind of a play, but I think it's on the board. 84 on FanDuel, you got to go a long way to convince me that he's going to get to the quality start against this Braves team. Like, even if he goes 6 innings, the odds that he gets there without giving up 4 runs on the way, pretty thin. Let's be real. All right, Royals and Twins. Austin Cox, who we don't really need to talk about on the mound. 16 innings, 1 start, 24.6% strikeout rate, 13.1% walk rate. What did I say about Cox in the old article here? 26-year-old left-handed non-prospect who had a few good innings out of the bullpen to start the season. That's right. He went 12 2/3 scoreless innings in 6 appearances out of the pen. They gave him a start last week. He went 3 2/3 against Cleveland, 4 earned, 4 hits, a home run, struck out 2, walked 4. And as I put it in the article, that earns you as another start if you pitch for Kansas City. So he's going today. I don't expect much out of him here. I don't think he's overly playable. 5,000, like if you're making the Gavin Williams play, you could arguably make this play too. But it's a lower end pitcher who I don't really expect to chase. Like even a win bonus is probably unrealistic here because they're going up against Joe Ryan, who I expect to fully shut this lineup down and have a really strong start. Obviously, he projects that way. So I don't really see it for Cox as much as I could see a Gavin Williams blazing a trail through a few innings there and finding some strikeouts. Neither one is a great option, but I prefer the Williams play. Very minor interest in the 5,000 for Cox on DK. No interest at 6,000 on FanDuel. I can't imagine he chases a quality start here. 24.6% strikeouts is great. The 12 2/3 scoreless was fine, but in a different role where you can't go max effort, like it's just not the same play. 13.1% walks in that sample already. 2.25 ERA is great, but a 4.49 xFIP is the realistic number, and he's giving up premium contact. Hasn't resulted in home runs, but 10.5% barrels, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo, 18.7 degrees. Home runs are coming. Going up against a home run focused team, for better or worse. There's plenty of strikeouts in the Twins lineup, but I just don't think he's going to be in the game long enough to really rack up a huge total here. I like the upside for home runs from Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton. Even Kyle Farmer is interesting to me in the middle of this lineup. Max Kepler hiding down the bottom of the lineup. Lefty, at least for now. But you get Max for 2 plate appearances against a righty out of the Royals bullpen. There's definite upside there. And it's not like he costs anything. $2,800 on both sides in the outfield. Michael A. Everybody knows we like to take our shots with Michael A. from time to time. 10 homers, 11 steals, 212, 260, 406, a 193 ISO though, 82 WRC plus. You take the good with the bad. 13.1% barrels, very good. 37.2% hard hits, very average. 34.1% strikeouts, very bad. But he's a inconsequential guy that nobody rosters at a very cheap price in the outfield, who clearly can turn on the ball, can steal a base when he gets on. So in an abundance of Twins lineups, you certainly want to include Michael A. in a few of your stacks. Moderate interest in like Jose Miranda hitting 6th here. I could argue that you could move Taylor up to that spot and let Miranda drop. Miranda's got the better hit tool, but hasn't really been on display in his 144 plate appearances this year. These two are interesting. Farmer's got sneaky power. 14 and 16 home runs the last 2 years. 14 and 16, yes. Only 4 this year, but only 180 plate appearances. Just kind of a sneaky power guy in the middle infield, 2,400, 2,300. Easy to get to in the heart of the Twins lineup here with some upside for a home run. Willie Castro has been really interesting this year. 5 home runs, 15 stolen bases, and 203 plate appearances. So if you're rostering Twins, I think you can certainly go 1 through 5. You can take or leave Christian Vasquez as a catcher. I do like Max at the bottom of the lineup as a bolt-on play. He's not a traditional like wraparound guy in terms of getting on base ahead of these guys and letting them knock him in, but he could definitely hit you a cheap home run from the bottom of the lineup, even lefty. So I like the Twins side of this one. And then, not to bury the lead, but Joe Ryan's in a dominant position on my pitching board for 10,900 across sites. Great opportunity for Joe Ryan to go out and just crush this Royals team. Plenty of strikeouts available for him. He's got to navigate Bobby Witt and Sal Perez. That's about it. There's really not a lot of trouble in this lineup. So just love the spot for Joe Ryan. I expect he'll be exceedingly popular, but he's really, really worth it at those prices. 27.3% strikeout rate on the season, only 3.9% walks. So, like, even the guys who are good at drawing walks in this lineup, and there's only a couple of them that offset their strikeouts a little bit with walks, like MJ sort of does that. Prato, kind of tries to do that, but 36.1%. He's not even offsetting that much with the 9.9% walks. And Ryan's just not one who issues free passes like at all. 0.97 whip, a 13.4% swinging strike rate, great swinging strike rate. Doesn't give up too many barrels. A little bit of hard hits, but doesn't give up barrels. Fine for home runs at 3.39. There's a little bit of happenstance in there for sure. So I really, really like the spot for Joe Ryan. You can take a few shares of Bobby Witt, Sal Perez, Prado, and like either Olivares or MJ Melendez. It's not great. It's not a good spot for Royals at all. Contrarian position for sure. I imagine Joe Ryan's going to be the most popular pitcher on both sides. So on a small slate, if you wanted to attack the ownership and just do it with a few home run focused bats, it's an okay play. It's not like they cost much, but it's just one I wouldn't get carried away with. I fully expect him to be the much, much stronger side of this game. Not in like an I don't expect Andrew Abbott to have a really strong game today kind of a way either. God, that kid was good yesterday. That pissed me off more than anything else that happened. The fact that he was that good when I was not liking it. I still don't think he's as good as it seems like on the surface, but he keeps on doing it. So clearly he's got talent, and I hope I didn't undersell his talent yesterday, if nothing else. Anyway, we move on. So we covered that one in full, right? So only very minor interest in the Royals bats, definite interest in the Twins bats, major interest in Joe Ryan, probably the top pitching play on the day. Hi, my buddy Blake Snell. Interesting spot for Snell. He's extremely cheap at 8,600 on the DK slate for somebody who's struck out double-digit hitters in 4 straight starts. It's like 12, 12, 11, and 10, I think, over the last 4. It's in the article. 31.5% strikeouts on the season. We just know Blake Snell is one of the dominant lefties in the game, one of the best strikeout artists in the game. I don't really understand that price. FanDuel got it right, 10-9. That's the right price. I know Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani are in the opposing lineup. A couple other really hard-hitting righties. A couple guys who switch hit, but will face him right-handed. And I know he's got some flaws in his 11.6% walk rate It sometimes limits his innings, but he's been going 6-7 innings in almost every start lately. Just been dominating on the mound. Gives up runs from time to time. Certainly can give up a little bit of power at 9.8%. Barrels, 36.3% hard hits is fine. 88 miles an hour of exit velo is fine. 3.04% home run rate, totally acceptable. Don't really get the price on Blake Snell. I would be over the top with Blake Snell shares on DraftKings today. I would have a good share of Blake Snell on FanDuel today. 10-9 is just the right price for how good he's been this year. Going up against an Angels lineup that some of the better hitters at least strike out into the mid-20s, with Mike Trout pushing the 28.6% strikeout rate. It's still Mike Trout. Obviously, you're dealing with a deadly hitter there, but he's gettable in terms of strikeouts for a guy like Snell. It could certainly be a 2 strikeouts, but also give up a 3-run home run type of a day. 18 home runs on the season for Mike Trout, 233 ISO, 36% better than average creating runs in a season where everybody's talking about how bad he's been. Shohei Ohtani, obviously the best player right now when you count that he hits and pitches, and he's probably the best player when you just talk about hitting. I know I've said Ronald Acuna a few times. I might be starting to get convinced that it's Ohtani, even just if we take him just as a hitter. He's been outrageous this year. 31 home runs. Can't stop hitting balls 450, 500 feet. Just been so good. First base and outfield on the DK slate. So we can figure out how to put him at first base and outfield, but we can't figure out how to have him pitching and hitting at the same time. 9.53, totally playable in the home run model. A little surprising that this is lower than this. I guess it's the lefty working its way through the model there for Ohtani. But obviously, major upside for Ohtani. If you're getting this, I haven't checked this lineup confirmed. Nope, not confirmed yet. So if you're getting this version of the lineup, Ward, Trout, Ohtani, Rendon, Renfroe, Eduardo Escobar, even Renifo and Chad Wallach, it's basically playable from 1 through 8 against Snell if you want to take up that position. And I think that is maybe worth doing than attacking Joe Ryan. You're obviously getting much better players than if you were going to the Royals. You're getting a lot of these guys for similar prices or lower prices that help offset these two prices. So I'm not even really concerned that these two guys cost $12.5 together, because all these guys are so cheap. I didn't mean to include David Fletcher. David Fletcher is essentially irrelevant for DFS. Slap hitting defender of a shortstop. Perfectly fine. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but not overly useful. Cue the 2 home run day for David Fletcher. But this whole part of the lineup is playable. And especially if Snell's going to be popular on DK, like if he goes into the upwards of 30-40% owned on DK at that price, which I think is probably justifiable here, I think you can take shares of those guys on the other side of it, just given the fact that in addition to all his strikeouts, he does allow a little bit of pop from time to time to one of the best right-handed home run hitting teams in the league, and he walks 11.6%. So there will be some opportunity. We all know Snell goes through some rocky starts from time to time where he's got multiple runners on base every day, or every start. A 1.21 whip bears that out. So if they can capitalize, they could certainly get to him. So I like attacking the Snell ownership better than attacking Joe Ryan with the shitty Royals. So they at least got that going for him. And it's, Ward, Trout, Ohtani. I don't expect Mickey Moniak to get in this game, lefty. I would think it's basically this version of the lineup. So a little bit of sneaky pop here. Eduardo Escobar, 48 home runs in the last 2 seasons combined, has been bad this year, but definitely knows what he's doing at the plate. 3,200, second base, third base, totally fine to play Eduardo Escobar. The real qualities right here. I think everybody knows that. No Brandon Drury, he went on the IL. Forget what his injury was. Minor thing. I think it's just like put him on the IL, we'll get him back after the All-Star break kind of thing. But he won't be there today. That's a home run hitter out of the lineup, but there's plenty of replacements here. I can't imagine like Moose, anybody like that. I think you get basically this version of the lineup. On the other side, the Pods, you definitely take shares of the Pods against Jaime Barria. I'm getting a weird little projection on him back the other way, though, for 55 on DK. I think he's playable enough. It's not like he's been good. 19.6% strikeouts, a 4.56 xFIP underneath the cleaner 2.92 ERA. This is definitely the more honest number. 11.1% swinging is good. Keeping the ball definitely, in terms of hard hits, at least. He's allowed a few home runs in the 49 and a third innings. But keeping the ball down in terms of power, 29.5% hard hits is spectacular. 85.9 miles an hour of exit velo is very, very good. He's just run into a few barrels. This is a little bit of happenstance, I think. So on the idea of maybe some clean innings, the one thing is that he doesn't really pitch that many innings. He's been working in like a hybrid role between the bullpen, between some starts. He's gone 5 innings twice all season, a few weeks ago, I think. So I don't know that I expect him to chase even 6,300 on FanDuel. Just another guy. I don't know that we're getting the quality start. With a handful of strikeouts for that cheap, could he be one of those guys where it just is the key to unlocking a major combination of bats at the plate? Absolutely. I think he could have a functional but not good start here. And then you're just looking for Joe Ryan to not crush the world with 60 FanDuel points, and Blake Snell, same story. You just need him to be functional enough for you to get to the bats that you want. So I think he's mildly playable on FanDuel. Definitely playable in a few shares on the DK slate. You're dealing with probably an innings limitation of like five and change innings. 6 would be a minor miracle. 6 and a quality start would be a minor miracle here. It's low end, but I think it's at least price based, somewhat viable. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I haven't been over there. Snell's in his groove, says Charles Moran. We just have to see if he gets injured like he does. Yeah. Hopefully he stays healthy. Shannon Lambert says Snell should be the most expensive pitcher on DK. Yeah, I mean he should certainly be there. Whether the most expensive or one of, he certainly shouldn't be this cheap at 8,600. That's a discount for sure by 2,000-3,000. Charles Moran, Trey's in the chat, says Taylor's due for a home run. Yeah, Taylor's a roller coaster. Taylor Ward is a roller coaster of a hitter. He was last year. He had that insane start, then just cooled off dramatically, was dead at the plate for like 2 months, then came roaring back the next handful of months. So weird roller coaster of a hitter, but when you catch him hot, you catch him hot. And righty leading off. What I like best about Taylor Ward is a cheap play that you can just kind of bolt in, who gets on base at an okay clip at 314, could be better than that. But you've got the two most elite run creators in the game really behind him in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani to drive him in. So you got to love that. 10 minutes to go. You can do this. Hey, we can go up to like 5, Larry. I just gotta. It's not a long trip up to the stadium. I want to shooting to get there between like 6 and 7. For a couple of beers before we head inside. But we'll see. If I miss the time in jam-packed Billy's or wherever we end up going, it's not the worst thing in the world. It reminds me of being at a fraternity party back in college days, where you're just like this, trying to like sip a beer, have a conversation with 3 different people who can't hear you and you can't hear them. It's that kind of a place. Wu and Webb seem to be in play in the same game. Seems like San Francisco Park plays different at night. I haven't looked at the night versus day park factors, but San Francisco nights are cool. There's a famous saying that the coldest night I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. So yeah, I could see that certainly playing different at night than in the daytime. It would be worth looking into. But I just think that's 2 very good pitchers who are definitely both in play. Wu is one of my highest projected, 3rd highest projected pitcher. Webb's getting a weird projection. We're going to get to this in just a second. Webb's getting a weird projection, but I like him better than where I have my model, has him. So let's get toward that. We can move on from this one, I think. So this one was, pods I didn't really talk about, but obviously Tatis, Soto, Machado, and Bogarts at a discount. You can get to all 4 of those guys all day long against Jaime Maria. It's not like he's an intimidating starter on the mound. They're all correctly priced or underpriced for some perceived struggles or for some actual struggles. Juan Soto should definitely be more expensive than 56.37. That's the perceived struggles. He's up to 277, 424, 502. He was down in like the 210 range like a month and change ago, just in a weird little bit of output, but has come roaring back to life. The power never went anywhere. Obviously, Tatis is a star, and then Machado and Bogarts have struggled, but Bogarts is a career like 280-something hitter. He's going to come roaring back to life. Manny's going to come roaring back to life. His power is still, arguably there, down a little bit, but there's still definite upside there. 42.2% hard hit rate for Manny. None of those guys strike out aggressively. Cronenworth's been down this year, but he's cheap. He's a bolt-on. Gary with his power behind the plate is a bolt-on, particularly on DK at 3,900. Carpenter, Odor, and Grisham, kind of a low-end, lefty-focused bottom end, but playable. If you're building 25 pod shares, one or each of them should be in a handful of them. 5, 7, 10, something like that. They certainly help offset some pricing, but like I said, all these guys are either correct or cheap. So I like the pods a little bit here. I like Woo, the nature boy. Woo! Little Ric Flair. Ric Flair still alive? I know he was last I saw in and out of some troubles in the hospital and everything. I think he's still out there. He'll probably pop up on a pay-per-view now. It's just like, guess who's still wrestling? You see those every now and then, up until like 2 years ago. he was still getting it done out there. He was still out there. I don't know if he was getting it done. But you would just see those from time to time in like the New York Post. It's like, ancient wrestler gets into the squared circle one last time. Anyway, here's this game. So let's talk about it. You can see where Webb's projecting. That's a little questionable in my mind. I think there's a little bit more strikeout rate that's being accounted for in my model with Seattle on the other side. That's probably not feeding through quite enough. So if I ran an update to get it up to present day, that would probably go up to the 29-30 range. You'd probably pick up like a strikeout somewhere along the way there. Webb's not a dominant strikeout pitcher, but he's a very, very good pitcher. He's very good at pitching clean innings. He's given up a little bit of weird power this year. 8.3% barrels, 44.9% hard hits, 90.4 on the exit velo. The barrels are the weird part. Barrels are up a little bit and a 2.94% home run rate. That's good, but it's consequentially a little bit higher for him. He's a guy who cuts down launch angle, 2.5 degree average launch angle. So very good at keeping the ball in the yard. And that's when we don't really care about the exit velo and the hard hits. So probably just a few mistakes along the way is what we're seeing in the barrels and the home runs. But worth pointing out because he's given up a few more home runs than normal. He's not like completely going to necessarily take the bats out of these guys' hands. So maybe a little bit of that trickling through as well. But overall, very, very good pitcher at the correct prices at 92 and 10-1. Arguably a little bit cheap on DK, given the 26% strikeout rate in this projected Mariners lineup. So there's plenty of upside for Logan Webb here. I like him beyond where I have him projected. This would be one where I'd put my thumb on the scale to get to a few additional shares, particularly if he's not that popular. I'm not sure what his ownership looks like. I imagine he'll get some, but like probably fall in that mid-range. So that would make me like to play a little bit. And then we need to talk about Mr. Wu. On the other side, Brian Wu, 6,600 on DK is bonkers for this pitcher. I know he's a young kid making his sixth start of his career, but he has significant upside. 22 and 2/3 in 5 starts, 33.3% strikeout rate at the major league level. Had a very short disaster start in his first outing. They unfairly brought him up and threw him to the Wolves against the Rangers, and he got lit. Since then, he's just basically dominated. He is a really, really good pitcher. Kid that they were excited to bring up people were saying that he was promoted a little bit early, but seems fully polished to me. 12.9% swing, 29.1% CSW so far. A little bit of incidental contact, but we're talking about 22 and 2/3 innings. So, I forgive this a little bit further than I actually believe that this is, kind of around who this kid's going to be. Maybe it drops down to 27, 28, but I think he's a good strikeout pitcher. Very, very good stuff. So I like Wu here. I like him at 92 on FanDuel. My model likes him. Like I said, third highest projected pitcher just in the raw sense. And 6,600 is just a misprice. Even if you say small sample hasn't done anything yet necessarily, he's at least earned like an 8,000 plus price tag on DraftKings. They're just not paying attention. So there's a good upside here. Plenty of strikeouts available in the Giants lineup too. 20s from a lot of the key hitters, a lot of the power hitters, a lot of the lefties in the 20s and above strikeout range. So I like the upside for Wu here. Even if he only goes like 5 and change, chase a quality start for me. Book me a good handful of strikeouts, especially at that DK price. Chase the win for me in 5 innings. Book a handful of strikeouts. You're paying that price off easily. He could get dinged. It might not work out. It's a rookie making his 6th start. I have no illusions about that, but I think there's a good upside here. Vast majority of DK builds going to be Ryan and Wu. Yeah, it's not a bad position to take up, Shannon, by any means. I think you could get away with a ton on DK if you just went with Snell and Wu. Like, that's 2 premium ups. Those 2 might be the top 2 strikeout pitchers on the day, and you're getting them both at big discounts. I don't know why you wouldn't just pair those guys. That would probably be my first thought, especially if Ryan projects for more ownership. I raved about Ryan when we talked about him. I love that spot for him today. I think he's going to have a great start. But I think there's plenty of upside for Snell and Wu at price on DK. So I might be looking at that pairing. And then maybe try and differentiate who the second starter would be in the Ryan lineups. Maybe get away from Wu in those. Use him in some for sure. But maybe that helps differentiate those Ryan lineups a little bit if that's like the premium combination. Yeah, exactly. That's just how if you go with the 2 discounts, it just helps you buy some of those premium Braves bats, although they're facing a potentially very good pitcher. But it helps you. Yeah, the Braves would be the target there. They're I don't want to say they're facing a good pitcher and make it seem like I don't like the Braves. They're projected number one, and they've got the top home run rating on the board in the stacks tool today. So absolutely, you want to load up on Braves if you're doing that. Just with a little minor hesitation about the excellent pitcher on the other side, or excellent prospect on the other side. But he's probably going to get lit up. So yeah, enthusiasm about Wu. It's definitely like Webb better than it looks like in the model here. I think there's upside against the Mariners. I would take some shares of bats on both sides. I'd probably be more inclined to roster Mariners first, even with Webb's ability to limit home runs. It's close though. I might unwind that actually. I might go more toward the Giants top end just because of how they project a little bit better for power. But I don't really like either side. So it's essentially a tie. I'd be focused on the top end. I feel like the Giants lineup maybe runs a little bit deeper than the Mariners because like Thairo Estrada hitting 6 down there if this is the confirmed version. Mato's decent hit tool for a young kid. Sable, aggressive strikeout guy, kind of reminds me of like, let's say Kelnick or Cal Raleigh from the other lineup. Certainly not the home run upside yet, but has hit a few. Strikes out very aggressively though. But I think this lineup runs a little bit deeper. Maybe doesn't peak as high, but runs a little bit deeper. They certainly don't have a Julio Rodriguez in that lineup. So it's like a tie. I kind of like both if I'm going there. I could argue the case for either one. But they're both low priority for what I think the pitching looks like in this game. If you're going to Mariners, J.P. Crawford's correlated scoring play from the top, gets on base at a good clip. He was higher than this and stabilized at like 361 when it looked like he was going to trend down the rest of the season after they moved him up to the leadoff spot. So I'm back to kind of liking J.P. Crawford for cheap as a correlated scoring piece. Julio Rodriguez, definitely a lot of swing and miss upside, but definitely counting stat upside for Julio. He's got to pull his hit tool together a little bit and get back to where he was, but I like the player, obviously. I think Ty France's approach to taking shots at Logan Webb would be the better approach here. Focus on not striking out, put the ball in play, maybe not swing for the fences. When I say that, I'm talking about Teoscar, Cal Raleigh, Eugenio Suarez, Jared Kelnick, Mike Ford, for as many plate appearances as he's gotten. All those guys are just swinging for the fences like crazy this year. So you take the good with the bad with them. Massive strikeout rates in the 30s down to the mid-20s for all those guys. Obvious power from all those guys. Ford's weird. Dead minimum on DK, 2,100 on FanDuel at first base. 6 homers and 65 plate appearances. We know he's not a major league hitter. But when he puts bat on ball right now, it's definitely traveling. So if he gets into the lineup, I think there's at least minor upside if you're getting carried away with Mariners. If he hits higher up in the lineup, there's a little bit more. But not a great lineup. On the Giants side, I love me some Lamont Wade. I love me some Jock Peterson. Grab some of the lefty pop against the rookie. Grab the on-base skills with some Lamont Wade, with some Jock, with some J.D. Davis. A lot of production from those guys. And then you can mix and match your way through some like Wilmer Flores, some Patrick Bailey, obviously Thairo Estrada. You'd like to get Estrada hitting like up here rather than down here, but it's a good spot. You know, it's at least 6th. If he's further down the lineup, he becomes a little bit weaker. I talked about it on, I think on a show and in articles, 5,000, 3,400. We're like, that's about cap for where Estrada should be. I know he's got good power. I know he steals bases, but I think the pricing got a little carried away with him. And he's still the most expensive player on this team. He needs to do a lot with his talent to justify even these prices. So he should probably come down even a little bit more. This is about the ceiling for where he should be priced. He's gone higher than this, and they're kind of correcting now. But still don't love Estrada. Like, I wouldn't get over the top to him. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong. Good counting stats, good production. But if I'm looking at the Giants for cheap bats, he's a guy who kind of skews that. And he's, like I said, got to produce a lot to pay those salaries off. So that's the only thing that limits my exposure to Estrada on any of these slates. Sable, Matos, Crawford, playable. So definitely more enthusiasm for the pitching in this one. And then the last game of the day, I think is super interesting. I expect we're getting Michael Grove. Has anybody gotten confirmation on the Clay Kershaw thing? I haven't seen it yet. They're expected to put Clay Kershaw on the IL, and Michael Grove should be getting this start for LA. If you get Clay Kershaw, obviously you can play Clay Kershaw against the Pirates. Larry says, I think Ryan gets a bump, no Sal Perez in the KC lineup. That's certainly some strikeouts gone, but yeah, that's obviously their best hitter, their power threat. Bump to Ryan for sure. Good call there. So assuming that we're getting Grove, I think we can definitely roster some Pirates bats. You can see the top 3 coming through magic number plus in the home run model. Carlos Santana, arguably a little low in the home run model. He's kind of caught fire over the last little bit. The bat has Grove. Yeah, Labs has Grove. FanDuel's got Kershaw still flagged as making the start, which ought to be interesting with people in their lineup builds after the site was down all morning and whatever the hell's going on over there. That was a fun one. Assuming there is a FanDuel slate, it should be the asterisk on this entire show, by the way. It's been available, but who knows if it stays available. So, yeah, I don't think we want any part of Grove in terms of rostering him as a pitcher. 4.82% home run rate, all the power that he's allowed, only 20.5% strikeouts. There are just other pitchers in better spots. It's the Pirates, so maybe a couple shares, but he's not like a premium prospect. He's not a top-end guy. I don't really see a lot of interest in Grove here. I expect the Pirates to probably get to him here. The Pirates probably produce. That's what I should have said. Go for the alliterative, the triple alliteration. Henry Davis as a catcher is super valuable, but they took that away on DraftKings, which is a shame. $2,500, it's a really good price for a kid who's been productive so far. Premium prospects, I like him. It's just he's more valuable when you get him with catcher eligibility on DK. 304, 373, 413, 119 WRC plus over his 51 plate appearances, though. Has been very good, and I expect him to continue to produce. He's a kid that I like a lot. Bottom of the lineup with Gonzalez, Marcano, Triolo, and Hedges. Kind of a who cares, mix and match. All very cheap, kind of a group of hitters. Nobody who's all that productive in that group. The top end is the focus, like 1 through 5. Jack Suwinski, monster home run number 13.07. I don't really understand why Jack Suwinski only costs $3,300, $2,900. He's their best home run hitter if he's leading off or if he's hitting like cleanup or whatever. That's just way too cheap for a dude with 17 home runs this year. He had 7 stolen bases, a 271 ISO, a 131 WRC plus. 15.7% walk rate. Yeah, he strikes out 31.3% of the time, but who really cares with all that power? 17.9% barrels, 48.6% hard hits. This guy's a $3,300 player, $2,900 on FanDuel. What? Doesn't make sense to me. Fire away with Jack Suwinski, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen. You bolt those guys on to go for the ride with Suwinski. Love that spot for the Pirates in the top, let's say 5 here. This is a very good day to roster Pirates, I think, and they're pretty cheap. Good spot. Not carrying a huge projection in Vegas either. I'm curious to see what their ownership would look like. I think like if I'm building 1 to 3 lineups just for the fun of it and going to the Yankees game, I think I might go with some Pirates just to see how they do here. But like that top 4, top 5, like I would grab. I hate that they're all outfielders. That kind of blows. Because I would want to go like Suwinski, Reynolds, McCutchen, and Davis, but I don't really. Oh, I can put Davis at catcher on FanDuel. That's true. Santana is perfectly playable in that group if you prefer him. It's interesting. I think it's a good spot for the Pirates. Dodgers, you can definitely go to Dodgers, but you're rostering against Mitch Keller here, who is also arguably pretty cheap on the DK slate at 88 for what he's been this year. He's come back to earth since like mid-May. He's been 6 or 7 strikeouts rather than like 8 to 10. He's been giving up some runs, like 3-4 earned runs. He hasn't gotten tattooed. I think the high point was 6 earned runs, but he's had like 4 or 5 starts where he's given up 4 to 6 runs. So hasn't been as effective over the last, let's say, 7 starts as he was in the first 10. Still a 27.3% strikeout rate, 6.5% walks, only giving up 31.1% hard hits. So there's plenty of upside for Keller at price. It's just, again, like we were talking about with whoever it was yesterday, throwing him up against the Dodgers lineup. How many times are you going to get away with that? It was Abbott yesterday, wasn't it? Was it? No, that was the Pods. Regardless, going up against the Dodgers lineup, like I just don't want to tangle with them too many times. I love the price on Keller, so on DK I definitely would. On FanDuel, I would look where the public is and then make my decision. If the public's like 10+%, I don't know that I need to go there. I would want to cap myself around 10% Keller at that FanDuel price, I think, in this matchup. Just the Dodgers are so good at limiting strikeout upside. All their stars and their best hitters outside of Max Muncy, and JD Martinez, but their top three elite hitters strike out at a collective 15.7% over, it was 1,000 and change plate appearances collectively this season. Those 3 are just outrageous. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith. And then you go to Max Muncy, you go to JD Martinez with all his power. Peralta, Hayward, Outman. Miguel Rojas is bad at the bottom of the lineup, but this is just like outrageously good. So I'm more on the Dodgers side in this one. Like Suwinski is a cheap one-off. Do I like Nick Gonzalez potential there to be as a regular MLB player? I honestly haven't looked too deep into him. We can take a quick look. Come on, Grass. Work with me. Nick Gonzalez. 23rd ranked in the 23 report that's up on FanDuel. 23 ranked organizationally. 24-year-old. Not great over time. Like, could he stick as like a utility man? Sure. Like a middle infielder who's, you know, low end for our purposes, but kind of a capable bat with infrequent power, maybe. It doesn't look like he hits for much average over time. And looking at his minor league career, he's been a positive run creator. I'll give him that. 28% strikeouts, but 13% walks in the minors last year and this year. And only like a 166 ISO last year. 193 this year was a lot better. 7 homers last year, 5 steals, 6 homers, 1 steal this year. Dicey. I mean, the 263, 383, 429 has appeal. And like I said, a positive run creator. So maybe in that type of a mold. Trying to think of a good comp. Nobody leaps to mind. Just kind of one of those guys. You know, I don't know that he's a overly productive major leaguer, but could he stick for a handful of years as a utility man? Maybe move around teams a few times. Like he's probably Rob Refsnyder or better. And everybody knows what I think of Rob Refsnyder. Maybe a little bit better than that. Like I said, positive run creator. We'll see what he does. 30 plate appearances so far for Nick Gonzalez. If he's hitting here, mid price, you could do worse. So yeah, no real interest in Grove whatsoever, even at price. Significant interest in the top of the Pirates lineup. We can go down as far as Nick Gonzalez there. Why not? He's dead minimum price. He's also not on the FanDuel slate still. Unless something screwy's going on here. I looked for him. I didn't find him. Not sure. He's made 30 plate appearances. I'm not sure why they haven't put him in the player pool there. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think he's available on FanDuel. And then Dodgers. Significant interest in the upside for the Dodgers, but I do think you can roster Mitch Keller, most particularly on the DK slate. 456. Look at this timing. Look at this kid with his timing. Of course, that means I'll end the show around 5, and then I won't get out of here till like 5:20, but whatever. So bad at actually like leaving the house when I've got to get up and go. Top of the board, Joe Ryan with a bullet. 99, 10,000. Blake Snell, possibly a little bit low in terms of his strikeout potential. I think that's probably an accurate projection if we talk about like a median projection, a tempered projection, and what he's most likely to do. But I think there's significant strikeout upside for Snell. Woo, I love the price on DK is aggressively low. Just the idea that you can get these two at that price. 15.2 total. So you can book those two for only $5,200 more than Joe Ryan costs on his own. That's pretty good. That said, I mean, you could do the same thing with Elder for even a little bit less. You could go like Elder and Woo. You could arguably go Arman and Woo. Like I'd be making a lot of different combinations with this stretch of pitchers on DK today. Just put a lot of those guys together and roster a lot of bats. Webb, like I said, I like him better than where he projects. Keller, I kind of just like around this level. He's a lot better of a buy on the DK slate in that matchup. I don't love the Keller spot today. So for me, it's like these guys and up. Only tepid interest in anybody shares, but he's obviously very cheap. If he books you 6 innings, I think this is a realistic projection, but I don't know that he's going to get you 6 innings. And then obviously you get the win, or whether or not. I think he's more likely to go 4 and change. Elder I like, Wells I like, Arman I like in basically this order, and then bump Webb up to I would probably bump Webb ahead of, well, he's at least on par with Arman, Wells, and Elder, for sure, with upside for more given the strikeouts in Seattle. I think Brian Woo is Ric Flair's favorite pitcher. Definitely. One last woo for the board. But he is scary, thankfully late game, so I wouldn't have to see him. Yeah, always good when you can duck it in terms of we actually have to watch, right? I think there are minor weather concerns in Minnesota and New York. I don't think we're going to get rained on. We might get rained on minimally here in New York, but I think it's fine. It's not even a if I was going to the game scenario. I'd say I am going to the game scenario, and I'm leaving in a little bit. I'll jump over and check out some DFS-focused weather without saying whose reports these are or giving up exactly what it says. New York and Minnesota look like the questionable ones. Looks like the wind is blowing out for that Minnesota game, so maybe that dings Joe Ryan a little bit, but it doesn't look like an aggressive wind. It's warm. It's warm everywhere. Increasing chance for late rain. All right, I'll read the exact quote because it's so short from Mr. Roth. So he says, increasing chance for rain late in the New York game, the Baltimore-New York game. Thank you to Kevin Roth over at Roto Grinders. He does not work for rotoscouts, not yet. I don't think we can afford Mr. Roth. So, interest in Joe Ryan, Blake Snell, Brian Wu, and then mix and match pieces with him on Wells, Elder, and Logan Webb. Maybe some Mitch Keller. Gavin Williams for the crazies out there, the dart throwers, the believers. I think that's it, gang. I'm going to punch out 5 o'clock on the nose. Everybody have some good luck out there. If you see me win, it was done with a hand build and only one of probably 3 lineups. But hey, let's go me and let's go you guys. Good luck. Somebody go win some. I'll see you guys. Good luck.